Welcome back, everyone. It's good to be with you again. I was once told by a wise priest as we were getting ready to be ordained. He gave us a little bit of advice, and he said, "Gentlemen, if you ever want to truly accomplish something that would be worthwhile, it's important to have a goal to work towards." And so today, in our second video of this short little series, just to talk about what is really our goal here for the Human Formation Program at Bishop Ryan. It's important to understand, as we had mentioned in our last video, we know the overall goal is to get to heaven and to help each other to get there. Okay, good. But what does that mean, and how do we live that out in our life? I believe it can only fully be accomplished in the way in which God has created for us, when we understand our great dignity as sons and daughters of our Father in heaven. And to realize and to understand that great dignity, it takes an understanding of how it is that we can best function in this world so that His presence will always remain in us, and that we would know His ultimate peace, His excellence, His joy. And in understanding action as we walk through the world, what we're talking about ultimately there is morality or an ethic. And each one of us, whether we want to admit it or not, has a morality. I may not have a specific name for it, but there is a code that I live my life by. And that code will either bring me to a greater place of peace, joy, happiness, freedom, or down another road that perhaps we don't really want to go down. And so what Christ holds up as morality is something vastly different than what we see typically in the world, and especially what we're confronted with typically in our modern society. I admit, even well into seminary, my understanding of the church's morality was a bit warped. And it wasn't until I was well into major seminary I finally understood, through the grace given to me by a teacher, right, working in God's providence, to teach me what it means to be a son of the Father and what it means to act as His son in the world. My original understanding of what it meant to act as a Christian was one where I simply do whatever it is that God had chosen at random to say was good or bad. And when I didn't do those things, He's sitting up on His throne in heaven, shaking His finger at me and telling me, "Hey, you're a bad boy." Okay, well, that's not exactly right. What I was finally able to understand and to take in and to learn, our Father in heaven is not up there shaking His fingers at us saying, "You better be a good boy or girl or else." But what He's saying is I have a plan for you. And I have made you, I have created you in a particular way. And when that is fulfilled, you will know a joy and a peace greater than anything that the world has to offer. And so that's why we talk about virtue so much. When we really work on virtue, and when we receive the infused virtues freely, they're kind of like little cheat codes, because they become habits. And so as I'm walking through the world, I don't have to think all the time about how to act. Once I finally acquired these virtues, now all of a sudden, I'm able to not have to worry so much about how this presentation is going to affect me, or when I'm interacting with this person. They don't have a control over me, and no one should have that control over us. It means I'm free, a real freedom. It's what we would call a freedom for excellence, as opposed to what the world would say freedom is, which is a freedom of indifference. The difference being that in a freedom of indifference, I simply pick and choose what I want, how and when and where I want it, so long as it fulfills my quick emotion or passion or desire in that second. Okay, fine. Maybe that works for a while. But after a while, what happens? We start to see that all we're filling up is not our souls, but instead our earthly desires. And if there's anything that we've been taught over the past number of years is that that simply does not work, and it certainly does not work for the children and for the students. If that morality did work, if that ethic did work, we wouldn't see the rising numbers of concern that we're seeing regarding anxiety, depression, and all of the things that come along with that. Christ promises us something more. And that something more is what the goal of this formation program is: to know how to act, to know what it is to be free to choose excellence, to be able to be free to choose what is good and beautiful. And so, dear parents and students, I offer that to you. That is our goal, and that's what we're going to reach for. In our next video, we'll talk about some of the particular things that we can all do together as a community to help to bring that to fruition, both for our students, but also for our families. Thank you.